On today's Two on Your Side Town Hall, taking on mandates. We look into the state of the challenges to rules on vaccines and masks with another judge's decision coming down today.
Plus, the numbers tell the story. A look at what parts of Western New York are growing this year and which areas are losing people.
And insight into the race for governor. We'll look at what a new poll has to say about Kathy Hochul and a few other potential candidates, including Andrew Cuomo.
We're glad you're here with us, everybody. First up, state mandates on things like vaccines and masks have been a constant source of headlines over the last year and a half. They're issued, there are often lawsuits, sometimes they can contradict each other. We finally get some decisions in court, although nothing ever seems final.
And we got more progress on that front today when it comes to the rule requiring that all healthcare workers across the state get the shot. A federal judge in Utica sided with a group of healthcare workers who sued over the lack of a religious exemption in that order. Judge David Hurd's ruling today extends the temporary restraining order he granted last month that New York cannot require employers to deny religious exemptions to that mandate.
In that order, Judge Hurd said that the group is, quote, likely to succeed on the merits of their constitutional claim. And he also specifically pointed to the state removing the religious exemption from the original order more than a week after it was initially issued, calling it a, quote, religious gerrymander that triggers heightened scrutiny. What are we to make of that? It's part of what we want to talk about tonight with Jim Grasso, a partner at Philips Lytle who works in labor and employment law. It's great to have you on. Thanks for your time.
Good. Thank you for having me back. It's nice to be here.
And we know that you took a look at the ruling today. So why did the judge rule the way he did with this?
The judge, as you said, it's a preliminary injunction, so it's not final, but it does put a temporary break on the state's ability to prevent employers from not considering a religious exemption. And so he issued this because he determined that the plaintiffs had shown that they were likely to succeed on the case if it goes forward. And really, the main meat of it was he decided that they showed that the burden put on the employees was unreasonable under the facts of the case, particularly citing to what you said, the religious gerrymandering. Essentially, he saw that the state's argument, didn't hold a lot of water and was arbitrary. And they hadn't put forth a good rationale for why they were doing what they were doing, especially because the state regulation was still allowing exemptions for medical conditions. So he said there was no rational reason to differentiate between medical and religious exemptions.
Jim, the New York Times is reporting that there are at least 8 different lawsuits right now regarding, the vaccine mandate. This ruling today really affects the religious part of this, right? The religious exemption. It doesn't, take away the mandate overall. But there are other lawsuits challenging the whole thing as unconstitutional. Do you think the ruling today has any impact on those challenges? I mean, is there any chance that the mandate overall gets struck down?
Well, This decision today is totally separate from those, and it's considering a totally different legal issue. The legal issue in this case was whether or not the state had the authority to prohibit employers from even considering a religious accommodation for a vaccine mandate. Those other cases are dealing with whether or not employers have the authority themselves to mandate the vaccine. So 2 separate legal issues here. So I don't think today's decision is going to have an impact on them.
And on another front, we're seeing more and more companies issuing their own mask mandates, and that's something that usually draws some kind of controversy. And earlier in the pandemic, they had the backing of the state mandate that now does not exist. So what kind of legal challenges could we see here if people decide they want to go to court over that?
We really haven't seen too many, if any, challenges to mask mandates by employers. And in fact, right now, employers in New York are subject to the HERO Act. The airborne prevention plans are supposed to be in place. And under those plans, employers are, in fact, supposed to require employees to be wearing masks in the workplace unless every employee is vaccinated. So there's still state regulation out there requiring the masks. But of course, those mandates are still subject to medical and religious exemptions like the vaccine mandates.
Yeah, when we talk about masks, we have seen lawsuits filed across the state, at least a couple of them originating with plaintiffs here in Western New York. against mandates in schools for masks. What is the constitutional argument there? And as that kind of plays out in the court, how do you see that working through?
Sure. But people should keep in mind that the challenges to masks in schools is different than the challenges to masks in the workplace. So in school, it's a government mandate rather than an employer mandate. So the challenges in the schools have been that it's a violation of the First Amendment rights of religious, of association, but mainly also that it's a violation of the constitutional right to liberty, forcing someone to wear a mask in school, a child. But those have not fared very well. The people should keep in mind that, when they send their kids to school, they give up a lot of authority, and the schools have an obligation to keep kids safe. So the courts tend to be differential when schools make a decision that something is required to maintain safety in the schools.
Appreciate the perspective tonight. We've been chatting with Jim Grasso, a partner at Philips Lytle. Thanks again, Jim, for being here.
Thank you.
Always good to see you. Next for us here on the Town Hall this evening, the local real estate market certainly shows us that a lot of people have been moving into and out of parts of Western New York this year. And tonight we have a special look at just where all of that is happening.
And it comes courtesy of a report by our partners at Buffalo Business First. They looked at the database of U.S. Postal Service change of address requests since the start of the year to see the most moved into and out of zip codes in the area. So first, the ones that people are moving to. You can see them right here on the map, and on top by far is 14051. That's East Amherst and Swarmville. 14072, Grand Island, is second. And then there's a pretty big drop off to third with 14075 in Hamburg, followed by 14227 in Buffalo and Cheektowaga, and 14094 in Lockport.
So that leads to the question, where are people leaving and moving out? 14043, which is Depew, leads the way there. I guess not the position you want to be in. 14222 isn't far behind. That one encompasses pretty much all of Buffalo's Elmwood Village and some surrounding streets. North Tonawanda's 14120 lost the third most. 14201, which is Buffalo's Lower West Side, was fourth, and 14127 in Orchard Park rounds out the top 5. Now, all of these were based on net change of address requests. So while some people may have moved into a zip code, but then they lost people at the same time and vice versa, that wouldn't show up. But it does give you an idea on which areas are kind of growing and which ones are shrinking.
Interesting. And you can read a lot more at bizjournals.com/Buffalo. I'm wondering, where are they going? Is it the snow? Are they I'm getting out of the South Towns?
But then they're just moving from the North Towns to the South Towns. I was surprised that Elmwood Village is on the list of people moving out. You would think when you look at the housing market, a house doesn't last more than a couple of days there.
It's very curious.
Maybe they're just out of properties.
That's probably more like it. That's it.